Throughout history, food has not only been a means of nourishment, but also a sign of status and power. The tables of kings, queens, and nobles not only showcased their wealth and prosperity, but were also an effective way to convey a message to society. Dishes served on golden platters, flavors flavored with exotic spices, and lavish presentations showed how powerful and influential a ruler was. Behind these tables lay not only splendor but also meticulously planned symbolism. But is it possible to think that eating at such elaborate tables was just a ritual to fill one's stomach? Imagine sitting at a royal banquet, with flavors from around the world on your plate. Is it just a meal, or does it tell a story? Throughout history, food has not only been a means of nourishment, but also a sign of status and power. The tables of kings, queens, and nobles not only showcased their wealth and prosperity, but were also an effective way to convey a message to society. Dishes served on golden platters, flavors flavored with exotic spices, and lavish presentations showed how powerful and influential a ruler was. Behind these tables lay not only splendor but also meticulously planned symbolism. But is it possible to think that eating at such elaborate tables was just a ritual to fill one's stomach? Imagine sitting at a royal banquet, with flavors from around the world on your plate. Is it just a meal, or does it tell a story? The use of exotic foods was another way of projecting power and status. In medieval Europe, spices were almost as valuable as gold and were considered a luxury only accessible to the nobility. Spices such as nutmeg, cloves, and cinnamon were used at the table not only for flavor, but also to show how influential the ruler was over a wide geography. In Ottoman cuisine, saffron was a spice especially preferred at the tables of the Sultan. Dishes such as zerde, with its golden color, symbolized the splendor of the palace, while at the same time revealing the wealth of the palace. The fact that exotic flavors have such meaning proves that food is not only a means of nourishment, but also a cultural language laden with symbols. The quantity and variety of food was also a sign of power. At some royal tables in Europe, especially during the Tudor dynasty, hundreds of different dishes were displayed on one table. This abundance was specially planned to show the wealth of the monarch and the prosperity under his rule. A similar abundance was also noticeable on the Ottoman tables. For example, at banquets held in Topkapı Palace, hundreds of dishes were prepared, each offering a different flavor. Even if not all of these dishes were eaten, the splendor of the table was enough to make the guests feel the greatness of the ruler. It is important to realize that the royal table was not only a display of power, they were also a means of cultural exchange. The dishes served at a banquet were sometimes full of exotic flavors and recipes from another culture. For example, the famous pasta of Italian cuisine first appeared on noble tables and then became popular among the commoners. Similarly, many desserts made in Ottoman cuisine spread to different cultures from the Balkans to the Middle East. These cultural ties established through food show how deep the interactions between societies have been in history. Palace cooks worked with great care not only to make the food delicious, but also to turn it into a work of art. Every plate brought to the table was prepared to impress the guests both visually and in terms of taste. The sugar paste decorations used especially in European palaces were presented as a work of art. In the Ottoman palace, dishes such as Hünkar Beğendi, which attracted attention with its name and taste, were among the best examples of this care. The fact that the dishes were designed like works of art proves that culinary culture is not only about nutrition, but also about aesthetics. Tables were also ritual spaces. The iftar tables in the Ottoman Empire were not only a religious ritual but also a social spectacle. These tables were specially prepared to showcase both the Sultan's devotion to religion and his concern for the welfare of the people. The tea hours of English queens played a similar role. These hours were introduced to the whole world as not only a rest break, but also a part of British culture. Isn't it thought-provoking that a table is not only a meal but also a carrier of culture? Apart from exotic flavors, the presentation of local dishes was also remarkable. Flavors from local cuisines were sometimes used to create a bond with the public. For example, Ottoman sultans occasionally organized ashura distributions among the people, aiming to establish both a religious and social bond. Likewise, during the Russian Tsarist period, dishes prepared with ingredients from the people were served on the table, strengthening both local wealth and ties with the people. The simplicity of these dishes symbolized an understanding of governance that did not break away from the people. The social impact of royal meals is still felt today. The symbols of wealth and power of that era have profoundly influenced today's culinary cultures. The sumptuous flavors and aesthetic presentations offered in luxury restaurants are a reflection of the palace kitchens of the past. This culture, which is still expressed today with the expression "eating like kings," reminds us how tables have been symbols of power throughout history. Perhaps a dessert on our modern tables was a masterpiece that mesmerized guests at a king's table in the past. In conclusion, food has historically been much more than just a means of nourishment. Royal tables not only symbolized power and wealth, but also played an important role in shaping cultures and societies. These tables revealed not only the splendor of the monarchs, but also how strong the cultural ties between societies were. Throughout history, meals were designed like works of art, not only to fill the stomach, but also to tell stories, convey messages, and leave unforgettable traces. Who knows, perhaps we continue to find traces of the splendor of the past on our dinner tables today. Let's start our examination of the royal table with Louis XIV. Louis XIV was born on September 5, 1638 in Saint-Germain-en-Laye, France. His father was Louis XIII, and his mother was Anna of Austria. Known as the Sun King, Louis XIV was the most powerful representative of the French absolute monarchy and became the longest reigning king in European history with a reign of 72 years, 1643,715. Louis XIV ascended the throne when he was only 5 years old, but during his childhood the affairs of state were managed by his mother and the famous Cardinal Mazarin. After coming of age, the king concentrated the absolute power of the state in his own hands, symbolized by the phrase, "L'État, c'est moi," the state is mine. During this period, France became one of the cultural, military, and economic centers of Europe, and absolute monarchy was at its strongest. The reign of Louis XIV is notable both for its efforts to expand France's borders and for its cultural development. France's population was estimated at around 20 million, making it the most populous country in Europe at the time. The country's wealth grew thanks to an economy based on agriculture and the development of trade. Louis XIV built the Palace of Versailles, making it a symbol of the wealth of both France and Europe. Versailles was not only a showcase of the royal family, but also of French culture. It was also a time when France's military and diplomatic influence was at its peak. But the splendor of the royal palace contrasted with the poverty of much of the population. Notable events in Louis XIV's reign include important conflicts such as the wars with the Netherlands and the War of Spanish Succession. It was also during his reign that French culture, art, and literature entered a golden age. Famous artists such as Molière, Racine, and Lully produced works with the support of Louis IV. During Louis XIV's lifetime, court life was an example of splendor and order in every sphere. However, during his long reign, the financial structure of France began to weaken and economic difficulties arose, especially due to increased military expenditures and heavy taxes on the people. The Sun King died on September 1, 1715 at the Palace of Versailles, and a different era began in France. Louis XIV had a very refined taste in food and played an important role in bringing French cuisine to its peak. Chocolate, especially in the form of hot chocolate, was one of Louis XIV's favorite delicacies. With his Spanish bride Maria Theresa, chocolate entered the French court kitchen and quickly became a staple on the royal table. Truffles and foie gras were also a must on his luxurious tables. The intense and rich aroma of truffles perfectly matched the opulence of the time. One of his favorite dishes was wild game meat flavored with exotic spices and heavy sauces. Hunting was not only a pastime for Louis XIV, but also a sign of wealth and power. His game was expertly prepared in the palace kitchen and served at sumptuous banquets. For dessert, chocolate tarts and marzipan sweets were of great importance. The food at the Palace of Versailles was fascinating not only for its taste but also for its presentation. Gold and silver plates, crystal goblets, and sumptuous tables completed the splendor. Louis XIV's table represented not only the wealth of France, but also an era when French cuisine became an art form. One of Louis XIV's favorite delicacies, truffles are often used in French cuisine as an elegant and aromatic ingredient. At his table, truffles were often served in a simple but delicious way. Here's a recipe for an elegant truffle dish in the style of Louis XIV's time. Let's move on to the fettuccine recipe with creamy truffle sauce. Ingredients for this dish: 200 grams of fresh truffles or quality truffle oil, 250 grams of fresh fettuccine pasta, 2 tablespoons of butter, 1 small onion finely chopped, 2 cloves of garlic crushed, 200 milliliters fresh cream, 50 grams grated Parmesan cheese, salt and freshly ground black pepper, parsley for decoration. Now let's move on to the preparation of the dish. First, let's describe the truffle preparation. Gently clean the fresh truffles. For this, the soil on it is wiped off using a damp cloth. When cutting the truffle, it is chopped into thin slices with a knife. If fresh truffles are not available, good quality truffle oil can also be used. Now it is time to prepare the pasta. Boil the fettuccine pasta in plenty of salted boiling water according to the time specified on the package. After cooking, it is drained, but about a cup of the pasta water is reserved. Of course, the sauce is a must for this dish. Melt the butter in a large skillet and add finely chopped onion and sauté over low heat until it turns transparent. Then add the crushed garlic and cook for 1 more minute. Add the sliced truffles and sauté gently for 2,003 minutes. If you use truffle oil, you can add a few drops of truffle oil instead of mushrooms at this stage. Then add cream to the pan and stir over low heat until it reaches boiling point. When the sauce starts to thicken, add grated Parmesan cheese. Season with salt and freshly ground black pepper. If the sauce gets too thick, adjust the consistency by adding a little of the reserved pasta water. It is time to combine the pasta with the delicious sauce. Add the boiled fettuccine pasta into the sauce and mix well to ensure that the pasta is covered with the sauce. How to serve this dish? Put the prepared pasta on hot serving plates. Sprinkle thinly sliced fresh truffles or a few drops of truffle oil on it. Garnish with finely chopped parsley and serve. It is important to remember that the aroma of truffles is very intense, so it is important not to overdo the amount. This recipe will bring the refined tastes of Louis XIV to your table and allow you to experience the fascinating aspects of French cuisine. Our second stop at the palace tables is England. Queen Victoria was born on May 24, 1819 at Kensington Palace in London. Her father was Prince Edward Augustus and her mother was Princess Victoria of Saxony-Coburg-Saalfeld. Due to the early death of her father, young Victoria was strictly raised by her mother. On June 20, 1837, she ascended to the throne at the age of 18 upon the death of her uncle William V. Victoria began her reign as Queen of Great Britain and Ireland, and on May 1, 1876, she was also crowned Empress of India. During this period, Britain became one of the most powerful and vast empires in the world. Britain's borders expanded to India, Australia, Canada, and large parts of Africa. The population grew rapidly, with an estimated population of 27 million in 1851. Thanks to the Industrial Revolution, the British economy experienced tremendous growth, and London became one of the largest cities in the world. During her long reign, Britain underwent major transformations, both politically and culturally. Queen Victoria's reign of 63 years and 216 days is one of the longest reigns in British history and is known as the Victorian era. During this period, great progress was made in the fields of industry, science, culture, and politics. Especially with the spread of railways and the use of steam engines, transportation and trade accelerated. At the same time, revolutionary scientific ideas such as Charles Darwin's theory of evolution emerged during this period. Victoria had a great love marriage with her husband Prince Albert, and they had 9 children. After her husband's death, she mourned for a long time and was remembered in black clothes. This further strengthened her ties with the people. In addition, the parliamentary monarchy system was strengthened in England and the Queen's role became more symbolic. During this period, England became the world's greatest naval power and economic center, earning the title of the Empire on which the sun never sets. Queen Victoria's short stature, about 1 meter 52 centimeters, contrasted with her strong personality and impressive leadership. After the death of Prince Albert, Victoria lived in permanent mourning clothes and was known as the Queen of Mourning. During her reign, Britain united with Ireland and witnessed dramatic events such as the Great Famine. The Queen wrote her diaries regularly, and these diaries, which she kept for 60 years, have been a valuable source for historians. As the first British monarch to travel by train, Victoria also demonstrated her interest in modern technology. Recognized worldwide, Victoria was related by blood to many royal families in Europe and was referred to as the grandmother of Europe. Queen Victoria had a simple but distinct taste in food. Her favorite delicacies were white chocolate desserts and steak cake, a classic of British cuisine. In addition, exotic foods and drinks from Europe graced the palace table during the Victorian era. Especially spices and flavors from India enriched the palace menus. Victorian sponge cake, known as Victoria's favorite dessert, was named in her honor. This dessert, which Queen Victoria often consumed at tea times, has become a symbol of British tea culture with its light and elegant texture. Let's move on to the preparation of this dessert for the curious. First ingredients: 200 grams of butter, 200 grams of granulated sugar, 4 large eggs, 200 grams of flour, 1 teaspoon baking powder, 1 teaspoon vanilla extract, 100 ml cream, 150 grams of strawberry jam or fresh strawberries. Now let's talk about how to prepare the dessert. Preheat the oven to 180 degrees and grease and flour 2 round cake molds with a diameter of 20 centimeters. Whisk the butter and sugar in a bowl until it gets a creamy consistency. Add the eggs one by one and continue to mix. Sift the flour and baking powder into the mixture and add slowly. Flavor it with vanilla extract. Divide the mixture into 2 equal parts. Pour into the cake molds and bake for about 25 minutes. When the cakes have cooled, place one of them on a serving plate, spread the strawberry jam and whipped cream on it. Place the second cake on it and press it lightly. Sprinkle with powdered sugar and serve. If you follow this recipe, it will bring the elegant Victorian tea times to your home. After a delicious cake recipe from Queen Victoria, we turn our attention to Anatolia. Now, let's get to know Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent briefly before being a guest at his table. Suleiman the Magnificent was born in Trabzon on November 6, 1494. His father was Yavuz Sultan Selim and his mother was Hafsa Sultan. In 1520, he ascended the throne and became the 10th Sultan of the Ottoman Empire. Suleiman the Magnificent brought the Ottoman Empire to the summit during his 46-year reign. During his reign, he made great conquests both in the east and the west, expanded the borders of the empire, and achieved great economic and cultural development. During his reign, the Ottoman Empire spread from east to west, and its territory grew to include Anatolia, Egypt, North Africa, Southeast Europe, and the Middle East. The population of the Ottoman Empire at the time was approximately 40 million. Suleiman's rule is considered one of the strongest, richest, and most culturally advanced periods of the Ottoman Empire. Suleiman the Magnificent is known both for his military achievements and his interest in drinking, literature, and art. During his reign, he made many reforms in order to ensure a just administration in the Ottoman Empire and introduced important regulations, especially in the legal field. The laws he implemented in the Ottoman Empire, called Kanun-name Ali Osman, caused him to be known as Kanuni. These laws both ensured the order of the state and directly affected the daily life of the people. Suleiman reinforced the Ottoman sovereignty in Central Europe by conducting the Austrian campaigns in 1529 and 1532, and secured the eastern borders with the Treaty of Amasya with Persia in 1555. In addition, he reinforced Ottoman dominance in the Mediterranean with the Ottoman navy under the command of Barbaros Hayreddin Pasha. Suleiman also supported art and culture and turned Istanbul into a center of art and science. The value given to art and literature in the harem and the palace paved the way for the development of great poets and painters. Suleiman the Magnificent witnessed many important historical events during his reign and also had several interesting characteristics. One of the most notable events was the Battle of Mohas in 1526. This victory consolidated the Ottoman Empire's sovereignty in Hungary. Suleiman was also an important statesman and jurist. He is known for his just administration, and this characteristic is emphasized in many local and foreign sources. The Treaty of Friendship with France in 1536 increased the influence of the Ottoman Empire in the West and changed the balance of power in Europe. In addition, the private life of Suleiman the Magnificent is also very interesting. His love affair with Hürrem Sultan inspired history books and works of literature. After Hürrem Sultan's entry into the palace, important changes took place in the Ottoman harem and a new era began in politics with the influence of Hürrem Sultan. During this period, the fights for the throne between Suleiman's children led to great debates throughout history. Suleiman was also interested in literature and wrote poems under the pen name Muhibi. During his reign, the Ottoman Empire entered a cultural golden age. Suleiman's reign is remembered not only for military victories, but also for its cultural and artistic legacy. Suleiman the Magnificent was also a well-known figure at the rich table. Especially in the Ottoman palace kitchen, many delicious dishes were cooked, and the Sultan showed great interest in these dishes. Ottoman cuisine was famous for its richness, and the reign of Suleiman the Magnificent was a period when this richness reached its peak. The Sultan generally liked meat dishes. Traditional Ottoman dishes such as pilaf with meat and lamb tandoori were among his favorites. In addition, dishes such as Hünkar Beğendi and kasar were among the delicacies frequently prepared in the palace. Suleiman the Magnificent was well versed in the intricacies of Ottoman cuisine and consumed these dishes with great pleasure. While the spices used in the palace kitchen enhanced the flavor of the food, they also reflected the cultural richness of that period. Hünkar Beğendi is one of Suleiman the Magnificent's favorite dishes. This dish reflects the rich cuisine of the Ottoman Empire and the sophisticated food culture of the empire. Hünkar Beğendi is known as a dish worthy of the Sultan's tables, especially in the Ottoman palace kitchen. Here are the ingredients briefly before moving on to the Hünkar Beğendi recipe. 500 grams of lamb, preferably rump or back. 1 onion. 2 tablespoons of butter. 1 tablespoon flour. 200 milliliters milk. 1 tea glass grated cheddar cheese. 2 eggplants. 1 teaspoon salt. 1 teaspoon black pepper. 1 teaspoon red chili pepper. 1 teaspoon granulated sugar. 1 tablespoon olive oil. So how do we prepare this dish with these ingredients? Cut the lamb meat into small pieces and put it in a pot. Add some water and cook until the meat is soft. Roast the aubergines on the other side and peel them carefully. Slice the roasted eggplants finely. Melt the butter in a pan and roast the chopped onions until they turn pink. Then add flour and roast for a minute while stirring. Add milk and continue cooking while stirring until it thickens. Finally, Add chopped eggplants, grated cheddar cheese, salt, black pepper, and red pepper flakes and mix the mixture well. Add the cooked lamb meat to the eggplant mixture and cook for a few minutes. When serving, sprinkle red pepper flakes and olive oil heated in butter all over the dish. Hünkar Beğendi is a flavor that was frequently preferred in the palace kitchen during the reign of Suleiman the Magnificent and is considered one of the most popular dishes of Ottoman cuisine today. Our next stop is the Chinese Empire. Emperor Qianlong was one of the longest reigning monarchs of the Qing dynasty, ruling from 1735 to 1796. Qianlong, whose full name was Asen Jioro Hongli, was born in Beijing on September 25, 1711. His father was the Yongzheng Emperor and his mother was Empress Xiaoshang Ren from the Ula Nara family. Confucian teachings and Manchu martial arts were of great importance in his education before ascending to the throne. Qianlong's reign was one of China's economic, military, and cultural peaks. The borders of the empire expanded to include large areas of Central Asia and Tibet. During his reign, China grew to a population of around 300 million, making it one of the most populous and powerful empires in the world. This population lived in prosperity thanks to agricultural production and commercial wealth. Especially art and literature flourished during Qianlong's reign. The palace walls were decorated with porcelain and calligraphy. Qianlong was known not only as a ruler but also as a great patron of the arts. During his reign, Chinese culture flourished and Silk Road trade increased. During this period, Chinese tea and silk were in great demand in Europe and contributed to the growth of the Chinese economy. Qianlong also emphasized the compilation and preservation of ancient Chinese classics. He wrote thousands of poems during his reign and enriched the intellectual circle of the palace with these works. However, Qianlong's later years were overshadowed by palace intrigues and corruption. When he grew old, he had difficulty governing the empire and passed the throne to his son Jia King. This selfless act showed his deep respect for the people and his emphasis on family values. During Qianlong's reign, China occupied a unique place on the world stage in terms of both its wealth and cultural influence. During Qianlong's reign, China was particularly notable for its expansionist policies in Central Asia. The Hünkar Khanate was destroyed and Chinese rule over Tibet was strengthened during this period. The emperor displayed an extremely cautious attitude in his relations with foreign diplomats, emphasizing China's superiority, especially against trade offers from England and other European countries. The visit of British diplomat Lord Macartney to China in 1793 was a turning point in Sino-English relations. Qianlong rejected Macartney's gifts and stated that China had no need for Europe. This attitude symbolized China's traditional self-sufficient economy. Interestingly, Qianlong is known to have had a passion for collecting. He amassed hundreds of thousands of works, from ancient works of art to books. These collections are still part of Chinese cultural heritage today. The Qianlong emperor's personal life is also quite interesting. He strictly practiced traditional Chinese food and rituals in his palace life. In order not to lose touch with his people, the emperor traveled to the countryside regularly. During these travels, he observed the lifestyle of the local people and learned their culture. Also, Qianlong, who was known for his deep interest in Buddhism, made great investments in Buddhist art and architecture. He undertook the restoration of many monasteries and temples, thus preserving both religious and cultural heritage. All these qualities have made Qianlong go down in history as not only a ruler, but also a cultural guardian and a leader who cared about his people. The Qianlong emperor was also a picky leader when it came to food, and the palace cuisine underwent great development during his reign. Qianlong, who enriched traditional Chinese cuisine, especially preferred carefully prepared dishes. One of his favorite dishes was Peking duck, which is still one of the most iconic dishes of Chinese cuisine today. This dish had a special place in the palace cuisine during the Qianlong period and was an indispensable part of banquets. The methods used in making Peking duck reflect the finer points of the culinary arts of that period. The ducks were specially fed and the preparation process took days. Expert cooking techniques were used to ensure the duck skin was crispy and the inside remained soft. Now let's look at the ingredients needed to make Peking duck. 1 duck approximately 2 kg. 4 tablespoons of honey. 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. 1 tablespoon of sesame oil. 2 teaspoons of Chinese 5-spice mixture. 1 teaspoon of salt. 1 tablespoon of rice vinegar. Thinly sliced cucumber and spring onion. Thin Chinese flatbread or pancakes. After obtaining the ingredients, we can move on to the cooking phase. The duck is thoroughly cleaned inside and out, then dried. Boil water in a pot and boil the duck for a few minutes. This process makes the duck's skin crispier. A marinade sauce is prepared by mixing honey, soy sauce, sesame oil, Chinese 5-spice mixture, and rice vinegar. This sauce is thoroughly applied all over the duck and marinated in the refrigerator for 24 hours. The marinated duck is placed on a baking tray and cooked in a preheated oven at 220 degrees for about 1 hour. During cooking, the remaining sauce is applied to the duck every 20 minutes to make the skin crispy. The cooked duck is cut into thin slices and served with sliced cucumber, spring onion, and lavash bread. Peking duck was considered both a status symbol and a dish that showed the richness of Chinese cuisine during Qianlong's era. Today, this traditional dish has gained fame all over the world as the pride of Chinese cuisine. Our current stop for delicious food is the famous French commander Napoleon. Napoleon Bonaparte was born on August 15, 1769 in Ajaccio, Corsica. His father, Carlo Buonaparte, was a lawyer and local politician. His mother, Letizia Ramolino, was a woman known for her strong will. Napoleon's family was considered somewhat foreign in French society because they were of Italian origin. Napoleon, who received education at a military academy in France at a young age, attracted attention with his superior talents in mathematics and strategy. He rose rapidly in the chaotic environment of the French Revolution and seized the rule of France as consul in a coup in 1799. In 1804, he declared himself Emperor of the French, marking the beginning of a new era. Under Napoleon's leadership, France took control of a large part of Europe and created the Napoleonic Code, the basis of modern law. During this period, the empire's borders extended from Spain to Poland, from Italy to Germany, and reached a population of approximately 70 million. Napoleon's era was one of the most turbulent and changing times in European history. The Battle of Austerlitz, which he won against powerful states such as England, Austria, and Russia in 1805, proved Napoleon's military genius to the entire world. However, he lost the Battle of Trafalgar in the naval war with England, losing his dominance of the seas to England. One of Napoleon's greatest goals was to unite Europe under a single empire. He organized many expeditions for this purpose. His famous expedition to Russia in 1812 ended in great disaster due to cold weather and logistical problems. He lost his throne with the fall of Paris in 1814 and was exiled to the island of Elba. However, he escaped exile and regained power for a brief period known as the 100 Days. In 1815, he was defeated by British and Prussian forces at the Battle of Waterloo and was exiled to the island of St. Helena, where Napoleon died on May 5, 1821. Historians continue to debate his legacy as both a hero and a dictator. Napoleon was not only a soldier and leader, but also an important reformer. The Napoleonic Code, which laid the foundations of the modern French legal system, placed revolutionary values such as equality and freedom on a legal basis. He provided opportunities for young people by establishing the modern high school and university system with educational reforms. He also strengthened France's infrastructure by promoting the development of agriculture and road construction in the economic field. Interestingly, Napoleon was quite short, approximately 1.68 meters, and was therefore popularly known as the Little Corsican. However, these height discussions were further amplified by the propaganda exaggerations of the British. Napoleon's personal life was also quite colorful. He had a great love with his first wife, Josephine, but since she could not give birth to an heir to protect the throne, he separated from her and married the Austrian Marie-Louise. Historians emphasize that Napoleon was both a great leader and a complex person. One of Napoleon Bonaparte's favorite dishes is known as chicken Marengo. This dish was prepared for Napoleon after the Battle of Marengo in 1800. According to legend, after Napoleon won the war, he ordered his cook to prepare a meal immediately. The cook created this dish with the ingredients he could find around him, and Napoleon loved it so much that he believed that war brought luck. The dish became a symbol that Napoleon associated with victories. Before moving on to the chicken Marengo recipe, let's list the ingredients. 4 boneless chicken breasts, 2 tablespoons olive oil, 1 large onion chopped, 3 cloves garlic crushed, 2 ripe tomatoes chopped, 1 cup white wine, 1 cup chicken broth, 8,010 mushrooms sliced, 1 teaspoon fresh thyme, salt and pepper. For serving, fresh parsley and toasted bread. Let's move on to the preparation of the dish. Season the chicken breasts with salt and pepper. Heat the olive oil in a pan and fry the chicken breasts until golden brown on both sides, then set aside. Sauté chopped onion and garlic in the same pan. Add chopped tomatoes, sliced mushrooms, and oregano and cook for a few minutes. Add white wine and chicken stock and bring to a boil. Put the chicken breasts back in the pan. Cover and cook on low heat for 25 minutes. Serve with fresh parsley and toasted bread. Chicken Marengo is a dish that reflects Napoleon's simple yet delicious preferences. It is still among the classic dishes of French cuisine today, and offers a gastronomic window into Napoleon's history. Our next stop is Vienna, one of the most beautiful cities in Europe. Our host is Marie Antoinette, who really upset her people with a scandalous statement. Marie Antoinette was born on November 2, 1755 in Vienna, Austria. A member of the Habsburg dynasty, Marie Antoinette was the youngest daughter of the Austrian Empress Maria Theresa and the Holy Roman Emperor Francis I. Although she did not receive a strict education in the palace, she grew up as a princess who attracted attention with her beauty and elegance. In 1770, in order to strengthen the diplomatic alliance between France and Austria, she married Louis XVI, the heir to the French throne. This marriage brought Marie Antoinette to the French palace and brought her to the luxurious and magnificent atmosphere of the Palace of Versailles. When her husband Louis XVI became the King of France in 1774, Marie Antoinette became the Queen of France. During their reign, France had the widest borders in Europe and was one of the most populous countries on the continent with a population of approximately 28 million. The population was mostly poor farmers living in the countryside, but the royal family was quite isolated from the people with their lavish lifestyle at the Palace of Versailles. The Queen earned the nickname Madame Deficit for her pleasure-seeking and extravagant spending. Marie Antoinette's reign as queen coincided with a time when France's economic and social problems were getting worse. Support for the American War of Independence had worsened France's financial situation and increased the tax burden on the people. The magnificent balls held at the Palace of Versailles and the Queen's fondness for jewels caused great discontent among the people. The entertainments the Queen held at her private mansion, the Petit Trianon, were seen by the people as a symbol of luxury and extravagance. The French Revolution, which began in 1789, posed a great threat to the royal family. Revolutionaries accused Marie Antoinette of being isolated from the people and attributed the phrase, "If they can't find bread, let them eat cake," to her, increasing the people's anger. Although there is no evidence that she actually said this, the statement cemented her bad image. In 1791, the royal family attempted to flee the country but were caught in Varennes. In 1793, after the execution of King Louis XVI, Marie Antoinette was also tried and guillotined for treason. Executed on October 16, 1793, in the Place de la Concorde in Paris, Marie Antoinette remains one of the most controversial figures in history. Marie Antoinette is an important figure not only in French history but also in fashion and lifestyle. She represented the elegance of the French aristocracy with her clothing choices, hairstyles, and jewelry. In particular, high and exaggerated hairstyles called pouf were identified with her. The village called Hameau de la Reine, which she had built near the Petit Trianon to experience small village life, was an escape that romanticized natural life. However, this luxurious village was seen by the public as another symbol of her insensitivity. The Queen's lifestyle continues to influence French fashion to this day. She also left her mark on food culture with her interest in royal delicacies in French culture. Marie Antoinette is known for her fondness for sweets, and cakes, macarons, and chocolate desserts were among her favorite foods. French chefs would prepare a wide variety of sweets for her at banquets held at the Palace of Versailles. One of these, brioche, a type of sweet bun, was a flavor she usually preferred for breakfast. In addition, candies prepared with almond paste and elegantly decorated cakes were indispensable on their tables. Macaroons were a dessert introduced to French cuisine by Italian chefs during the reign of Marie Antoinette. This dessert, prepared with a filling of chocolate, fruit, or cream between two thin almond cookies, was recorded as one of the Queen's favorite flavors. Now let's look at the ingredients needed to prepare macarons. 150 grams of finely ground almond flour, 150 grams of powdered sugar, 3 large egg whites, 150 grams of granulated sugar. Optional, food coloring. For the filling, chocolate ganache, fruit puree, or buttercream. If our ingredients are ready, let's move on to the preparation of macarons. First, sift the almond flour and powdered sugar together. Beat the egg whites until they become snow, then slowly add the powdered sugar to obtain a shiny consistency. Slowly add the dry ingredients to the egg whites and mix. Put the mixture in a piping bag and squeeze it onto a baking tray covered with grease-proof paper in small circles. Tap the tray on the counter a few times to remove air bubbles. Let the macarons sit at room temperature for 30 minutes to dry. Bake in a preheated oven at 150 degrees for 15 minutes. Once the macarons have cooled, combine them with the filling you have prepared and serve. Marie Antoinette's love of desserts is a feature that reflects the elegance and diversity of French cuisine. Macaroons continue to be popular today as one of the sweetest symbols of this elegance. Now let's go back to England. Charles II was born on May 29, 1630, in St. James Palace, England. A member of the Stuart dynasty, Charles was the son of Charles I and Henrietta Maria. His father, Charles I, was executed during the English Civil War, and this caused Charles to live in exile at a young age. Although he was legally declared king upon his father's death in 1649, he could not claim the throne because the monarchy was abolished in England. He lived in exile in France, the Netherlands, and other European countries for 11 years. In 1660, after the death of Oliver Cromwell, the monarchy was re-established, and Charles ascended to the throne as King of England, Scotland, and Ireland. His reign is known as the Restoration period and is an important turning point in English history. During this period, England entered a major political and cultural restructuring process. During Charles' reign, the British Empire expanded, trade routes developed, and the population reached around 5 million. London, in particular, grew as a center of trade and cultural life. The reign of Charles II is notable for cultural innovations as well as political upheavals. The Great Plague that hit London in 1665 caused thousands of people to lose their lives. Immediately afterwards, the Great Fire of London in 1666 destroyed a large part of the city. However, under the leadership of the Charles, the city was rebuilt, and with the contributions of architects such as Sir Christopher Wren, London took on a more modern appearance. During the reign of the Charles, England made great strides in maritime affairs and maritime trade strengthened. The Royal Navy became one of the most powerful fleets in the world. At the same time, England's colonies in North America expanded and economic activity increased in regions such as the West Indies. In domestic politics, Charles frequently clashed with Parliament. He occasionally caused unrest among the people, especially due to his Catholic beliefs. Charles is known for his pleasant and entertaining personality, and these characteristics made him a beloved figure among the people. In addition, there was a cultural revival in England thanks to his fondness for art and theater. The Restoration period is considered one of the golden ages of theater and literature. The second Charles also made history with his luxurious lifestyle and love life. Although he was officially married to Portuguese Catherine de Braganza, he had many mistresses and illegitimate children. The royal palace became a great entertainment center during Charles's time, and masked balls and hunting parties were organized. Charles was known as the Merry Monarch. and was known for his humorous personality. He was also known for his fondness for dogs, and in particular, the King Charles Spaniel was named after him. Charles, who was known for giving importance to scientific studies in the palace, supported the establishment of the Royal Society. The period had a great influence on English cuisine, and royal banquets were enriched with exotic spices and imported products. In terms of public relations, Charles managed to establish close ties with the public by adopting a more moderate approach, unlike his father's harsh attitude. The second Charles is known for his food tastes and is especially known for his fondness for sweets. The royal kitchen became a center where exotic flavors were introduced to England at the time. Charles' favorite foods included hot chocolate drinks and desserts prepared with exotic spices. In particular, the tea culture that his Portuguese wife Catherine brought to the palace became a much-loved tradition for Charles. In addition, Charles was fond of roast beef and fruit desserts, which are classic flavors of English cuisine. Charles's favorite dessert is cheese tarts with toffee. This dessert was prepared with cream cheese and fruit filling and was frequently included on Charles' tables. Tarts, especially those sweetened with lemon zest and honey, were among the king's favorite desserts. For those who are curious, we should also give the recipe for cheese tart with toffee. First, let's list the ingredients. 200 grams of butter, 250 grams of flour, 150 grams of cream cheese, 2 tablespoons of honey, 1 lemon zest. Optional: fruit puree, strawberry, raspberry, etc. Now let's give the preparation. The dough is obtained by kneading the flour and butter, and this dough is left to rest. The dough is rolled out into a thin layer and placed in the tart mold. The filling is prepared by mixing cream cheese, honey, and lemon zest. The filling is spread on the dough and baked in a preheated oven at 180 degrees for 25,030 minutes. The baked dessert is served cold with fruit puree on top. This dessert stood out as a dessert that represented the luxurious and sophisticated tastes of English cuisine during the reign of Charles II. We will go back a little further for another cuisine whose palace we will visit. Caesar Augustus was born on September 23, 63 BC in Velletray, a small town near Rome. Augustus, whose birth name was Gaius Octavius, was declared Caesar's nephew and adopted son. After Julius Caesar was assassinated in 44 BC, Augustus fought to gain control of the Roman Republic. He rose to become the sole leader of Rome after the Battle of Actium, which he won against Marcus Antonius and Cleopatra in 31 BC. In 27 BC, he was given the title of Augustus by the Senate, thus becoming the first emperor of the Roman Empire. Augustus's reign lasted approximately 41 years and was characterized by a long period of peace and stability called the Pax Romana, Roman peace. The Roman Empire at this time encompassed a large area around the Mediterranean, including today's Italy, Spain, France, Greece, Egypt, Anatolia, the Levant, and North Africa. During this period, when the population was estimated to be between 70 and 100 million, Rome flourished as the cultural and economic center of the ancient world. Augustus ended the final years of the Roman Republic, full of political instability and internal conflict, and established a strong central government. During his rule, he implemented legal reforms and reorganized the Roman army. Augustus expanded the borders of the Roman Empire and implemented major construction projects such as imperial roads, aqueducts, and monumental structures. In particular, the Ara Pacis, Altar of Peace, was built as a symbol of peace and prosperity for Augustus. Augustus's personal life was also closely followed by the Roman people. He gave birth to a daughter, Julia, from his first wife, Scribonia. However, Julia's scandalous life led Augustus to impose strict moral laws on his family. Augustus portrayed himself as a strong, modest, and virtuous leader in the eyes of the Roman people. During this period, when Rome was experiencing its cultural and artistic golden age, Virgilius's Aeneid became an important literary work that glorified Augustus's reign. Augustus's personality was shaped by his strategic intelligence and diplomatic skills. He preferred a simple lifestyle in his daily life, and this increased the people's love for him. During Augustus's reign, the Roman economy reached great prosperity. Mediterranean trade routes were made safe and imperial revenues increased. Augustus is one of the leaders known to have conducted the first census in history. He died in Nola in 14 AD and was succeeded by his stepson Tiberius. After Augustus's death, the Senate declared him a god, and this tradition led to the Roman emperors gaining divine status. Today, Augustus is considered one of the most important figures of the Roman Empire, and his name is still kept alive in cities, works, and calendars. Caesar Augustus adopted a simple and healthy eating style. In contrast to the Roman aristocracy, known for their rich tables, Augustus preferred to eat modestly. Dried fruits, olives, vegetable soups, and fresh bread were frequently included in his daily meals. Figs, in particular, were one of Augustus's favorite fruits, and for this reason, many desserts made with figs were developed in Roman cuisine. This dish is a perfect combination of sweet and healthy flavors. It is prepared by filling fresh figs with honey, walnuts, and various spices, and baked in a hot oven. Now let's move on to the recipe for those who are interested. First, the ingredients. 10 fresh figs, 4 tablespoons of honey, 100 grams of crushed walnuts, a pinch of cinnamon and cloves, olive oil to spread on top. Let's move on to the preparation of this effective and delicious fruit. First, wash the figs and gently open them up and create cavities with a spoon. The filling is prepared by mixing honey, crushed walnuts, and spices. The prepared filling mixture is stuffed into the figs. The figs are placed on a tray and lightly brushed with olive oil, baked in a 180-degree oven for approximately 15,020 minutes. Served warm or cold. This dessert is a flavor that reflects the simple yet elegant tastes of Augustus and represents the healthy side of Roman cuisine. Let's go back to the island country. Queen Elizabeth I was born on September 7, 1533, at Greenwich Palace in London. Elizabeth, the daughter of Henry VIII and Anne Boleyn, was not considered a significant heir to the throne of England at the time of her birth. After her mother's execution, her mother's marriage was declared annulled and Elizabeth was considered illegitimate. However, when it was time to ascend to the throne after Henry VIII's death, her elder brother Edward VI and then her sister Mary, Tudor Bloody Mary, took the throne. Elizabeth ascended to the throne on November 17, 1558, after Mary's death, and ruled England for 44 years. During Elizabeth's reign, England made great strides in politics, culture, art, and navigation. This period is known as England's Golden Age, and famous writers such as Shakespeare, Marlowe, and Spenser wrote works during this period. During Elizabeth's reign, England began to transform from a regional power into a global maritime empire. Elizabeth managed to balance strategic alliances and conflicts with the French and Spanish powers. One of her most important victories was the defeat of the Spanish Armada in 1588. This victory cemented England's naval supremacy and paved the way for the country's colonization. Elizabeth's economic policies expanded trade routes and enriched England. London became the center of trade and culture, while England's population was estimated to be around 4 million. Elizabeth promoted religious tolerance, completed the establishment of the Anglican Church, and tried to strike a balance between Protestant England and Catholic Europe. The Queen's strong leadership skills and the fact that she never married earned her the title of Virgin Queen. Elizabeth's personality was shaped by her intelligence and determination. While she attracted attention with her diplomatic skills in the political arena, she was popular among the public with her simple but impressive stance. Elizabeth, who attached great importance to her clothing and appearance, set the fashion of the period with her gold-embroidered clothes and jewelry. Her support for art and theater enriched England's cultural heritage. The Queen was a linguist who could speak French, Italian, Spanish, and Latin. Mysterious masked balls and entertainments were occasionally held in Elizabeth's royal palace. These events were used both for diplomatic relations and to demonstrate the power of the crown. She died on March 24, 1603 at Richmond Palace and was succeeded by James I of the Stuart dynasty. Elizabeth I is known for her fondness for traditional English cuisine of the period. Royal tables often included game, spiced pies, fresh vegetables, and fruit. Elizabeth was particularly fond of sweets, and this increased the importance of desserts in English cuisine. With the spread of sugar throughout Europe, sweet foods became an indispensable part of palace tables. Elizabeth's favorite food is gingerbread. Queen Elizabeth had a great interest in sweet and spicy flavors. Gingerbread is known as one of the Queen's favorite desserts. This dessert became popular both among the nobility and on special occasions served to the public. Now let's move on to the recipe for this candy for those who are interested. First, let's list the ingredients. 200 grams of fresh ginger, 300 grams of granulated sugar, 1 liter of water, a pinch of cinnamon if desired. Now let's move on to how we prepare gingerbread. The ginger is cut into thin slices. The water is boiled in a pot and the ginger is boiled for 15 minutes. The boiled ginger is strained and sugar and cinnamon are added to the same pot. The mixture is cooked on low heat until it reaches a transparent consistency. The cooled ginger is covered with sugar and placed on a tray and left to dry for a few hours. It is stored in a glass jar and served. Gingerbread confectionery was popular among the nobility during the reign of Elizabeth I and played a significant role in the beginning of England's confectionery culture. We have come to our last stop at the palace tables. We are visiting our table on Russian soil. Catherine the Great was born on May 2, 1729 in Stettin, Prussia, today Szczecin, Poland. Her real name was Sophie Friederike August von Anhalt-Zerbst, and she was the daughter of a German princely family. In 1744, she came to Russia to marry the future Tsar Peter III and converted to Orthodoxy, changing her name to Katerina Alexeyevna. When Peter III was dethroned and killed in 1762, Catherine ascended to the Russian throne and began to reign under her full name, Empress Catherine II. During her 34 years on the throne, she expanded and modernized Russia, making the empire one of the most powerful states of the period. During Catherine's reign, Russia's borders expanded from the Black Sea to the Baltic Sea, from Poland to the depths of Siberia. As a result of wars with the Ottoman Empire, access to the Black Sea was gained, and the Crimean Khanate was annexed to Russia. In Europe, Catherine expanded her territory with the partition of Poland, increasing Russia's influence in European politics. The population reached approximately 30 million, and agricultural reforms supported the peasant economy. However, peasant rebellions, especially the Yemelyan-Pugachev Rebellion of 1773-775, challenged her rule. Catherine also introduced major reforms in education and culture, bringing new academies, theaters, and art museums to St. Petersburg. Catherine's Enlightenment ideas are evident in her correspondence with philosophers such as Voltaire and Diderot. However, these liberal ideas did not lead to a complete end to the system of slavery. The royal court was extremely wealthy. The Hermitage Palace housed one of the largest art collections in Europe. Catherine, with both diplomacy and personal acumen, transformed Russia into one of the most powerful cultural and military states of the period. Catherine the Great attempted to transform Russia into a Western European state throughout her life. During her reign, she hosted many European scientists and artists at her court. Her personal life, as well as her political life, has been much debated. She has been described by some as a bold reformer and by others as an authoritarian ruler. Catherine's reign is remembered as the Golden Age of Russia. She died on the 6th of November 1796 in the Winter Palace in St. Petersburg. She was succeeded by her son, Pavel I. Katerina's cuisine combined traditional Russian dishes with the refined culinary style of Western Europe. Although Katerina preferred elegant dishes prepared with the influence of French cuisine, she was also fond of Russian cuisine. Especially in the winter months, hot soups, meat, and mushroom dishes were the centerpieces of the table. Pelmeni, known as one of Catherine the Great's favorite dishes, are traditional Russian dumplings filled with meat. A mixture of meat, onions, and spices is placed in a thin dough and then boiled. Pelmeni were richly prepared in Catherine's palace kitchen and were usually served with butter or sour cream. For those who are interested, let's move on to the recipe of pelmeni. As always, let's list the ingredients first. For the dough, 2 cups of flour, 1 egg, 1 tea glass of water, a pinch of salt. For the stuffing, 300 grams of ground meat, 1 small onion, salt and pepper. Now let's get to the application of the recipe. A flexible dough is kneaded by mixing flour, egg, water, and salt. The dough is rested. The stuffing is prepared by mixing the ground meat with onion, salt, and pepper. The dough is rolled out thinly and cut into small circles. The stuffing is placed in the middle of each circle and the edges are closed. Pelmeni are cooked in boiling water for 10,012 minutes. It is served hot with butter or sour cream. Although pelmeni was popular among the public during the time of Catherine, it was enriched with luxurious ingredients in the palace kitchen. Pelmeni served in the palace reflects the perfect balance that Catherine established between elegance and simplicity.